Okay, it's the last night before Sukkot. Okay, just to finish up, we discussed basically the dinim of eating in the Sukkah, when you have to eat in the Sukkah, when you make a leshe b'Sukkah, all those different types of things. Now, as far as women sitting in the Sukkah, it's a very interesting halachic difference between the Sfardim and Ashkenazim, which is based on the Rambam's opinion and the Ashkenazic Rishonim and also the Bais Yosef and the Ramah. Which means like this: women are not obligated to sit in the Sukkah. Women are not obligated to do the bracha and the Lulav and Etrog, because it's a mitzvah connected to time. Any mitzvah connected to time, with a few exceptions, women are not obligated in. They're obligated in Kiddush, they're obligated in eating matzah, they're obligated in Chanukah and Purim, but generally speaking, biblical mitzvah, that's why they don't have to wear tzitzis. One of the reasons they don't have to wear tefillin. Any mitzvah connected to time, women are not obligated in. So now the question is, if they want to do the mitzvah, are they allowed to make a bracha on the mitzvah? So the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch, the Chabad, the Bais Yosef, they hold that a woman is not allowed to make a bracha. Why? Because the bracha shekachana b'mitzvah v'tzivanu, we're commanded. She's not commanded. So therefore they hold if they want to sit in the sukkah, they could. If they want to do lulav and etrog, they could. But they cannot make a bracha because they're not commanded. Taisis, Rashba, all the Ashkenazic poskim, including the Ramah, and the Rebbe also brings down both opinions, but he passes like the Ramah, that a woman is able to make a bracha on a mitzvah she's not obligated in. Why? Because she still gets schar of doing the mitzvah, and the word vitzivanu is a collective word for the Jewish people. And she also gets reward, not like somebody who's commanded and does it, but like somebody who's not commanded and does it. So we hold that women could make a leshe b'Sukkah, they could do a bracha on lulav and etrog, but a lot of the Sephardic people, they hold that you can't, and a lot of Sephardic women don't. What?
I've had before at my Sukkah non-Jewish people as guests who've been at my Sukkah. If one of them wanted to say Leshe b'Sukkah or bench Lulav and Etrog,
they shouldn't be encouraged to do it. A guy putting on tefillin for sure is forbidden. There's a case in the Gemara that a guy once put on like a talis, and people thought he was Jewish, and then he went and killed a bunch of people because they trusted him. They thought he was Jewish. So you have to be very careful with the mitzvahs. They definitely cannot make a bracha because they're saying God's name in vain, which could be one of the 7 Noahide laws, which is not cursing God. So by saying the bracha in vain, it could be that's a form of degrading Hashem. So they wouldn't be allowed to do it. There's another issue in halacha, which is not for now, if you're allowed to invite a non-Jewish person over to your house for Yom Tov. On Shabbos you're allowed to. In halacha, technically, you're not allowed to invite a goy over to your house for Yom Tov. Because Yom Tov you cook, and the only leniency of cooking, the Torah says, Hu levada yasa lachem, you're only allowed to cook for Jews. You're not allowed to cook for animals, if you own animals, you can't cook for them, and you can't cook for anybody that's not Jewish. So the din is, you're not allowed to invite goyim. If they show up, if they pop up, you could do it. So then the question, if they pop up sukkah, and pop in and pop up. So now the question is, what happens? It's interesting. What happens if you have, which happens in America a lot, you have intermarried couples. One's Jewish and one's not. But you want to have the Jewish person come because then they'll do the mitzvah. So, again, this is a language loophole, so to speak. So you tell the Jew, we would love to have you come. Now you mean him, and he means you, Kalesi in Hebrew, there's a difference between singular and plural. But in English, you can mean singular, you can mean plural. So you mean the Jew, and they think it means the guy, and they come in, then he could feed him. But again, a guy shouldn't be encouraged to do mitzvahs like that.
How does that apply to like a 3 day, 2 days Yom Tov and Shabbat?
Shabbos, you're allowed to invite a guy to your meal.
Okay, even though you're making the Eruv and preparing on Yom Tov for the Shabbat?
Yeah, but Shabbos, it's a good point. Even though you're doing that, yes. But it's a heter to cook, and now you're cooking for Shabbos. And Shabbos, you're not going to cook for them. So then you would be allowed to. Okay, let's get back to it. Now, we said the first night doesn't have a biblical obligation to eat at least a kazayas, which is 1 ounce of bread, a maitzi in the sukkah. So as far as the meal, our custom is we also use honey on the first 2 days of Sukkot. We dip the challah into honey. We also use salt, like we learned by Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So we use honey on the first 2 nights of Sukkah. A person should be excited being in the Sukkah. Okay, and there's also what's called the ushpizim, but that we'll talk more on Yom Tov, because I want to get in more into the halachos. Now, you have to say, when you do Birkat HaMazon, when you bench, you have to say Yalav Yovi in the benching, because there's an obligation, it's Yom Tov, to eat. On Yom Tov, if somebody forgot, they benched, let's say, they said the whole Birkat HaMazon, and then they forgot, they realized, and they didn't say Yalav Yovi. So then they would have to repeat the entire benching. They have to repeat Birkat HaMazon. Why? Because they didn't fulfill their obligation. But let's say you have a third meal. The obligation on Yom Tov is to have 2 meals. What happens by the third meal? Let's say you have a third meal on Yom Tov, and then you didn't do Yalav Yovi, then you don't have to repeat the benching. What?
The point is, why does it have to be exactly in that order? Why, let's say if a guy forgets it at that particular point, but he didn't finish benching.
No, it depends where. If he started the last brach already, then he has to go back to the beginning of benching. If he reminded himself before he said baruch, the last bracha, so then there's a brach in the siddur that he could say, then he doesn't have to repeat the benching. So but again, if you forget it, now there's a very interesting thing, it's not the stam for the yeshiva guys. There's an interesting tshuva in Rabbi Kiva Eger that holds women are not obligated, it's his first tshuva in Rabbi Kiva Eger. He holds that women are not obligated to eat the meal on Yom Tov. So according to Rabbi Kiva Eger, if a woman forgot Yalav Yovi in the benching, she doesn't have to repeat the benching because she doesn't have an obligation to eat. But the pearl, everybody disagrees with him, including the Alter Rebbe, and the pearl bottom line is that women have an obligation to eat. Now, if they forgot on Chol HaMoed, let's say you're in Sukkah Chol HaMoed, so then there's no obligation to eat bread. So then if you benched and you forgot Yalav Yovi, you do not have to repeat the benching because there's no obligation to eat. When there's an obligation to eat, and you messed up like Shabbos, there's an obligation to eat, at least in Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch itself. If you have an obligation to eat and you forgot benching, then you have to repeat it. If there's no obligation, like Rosh Chodesh, you forgot Yalav Yovi in benching, you don't have to repeat the benching. Okay, I want to get into, there's a few minutes left. Okay, now, as far as Lulav and Esrog is the first day. I'm not telling you what to pick, Lulav and Esrog, whatever. You have the Lulav and Esrog. This that we bind, just for the record, this that we bind the Hadassim and the Ravas to the Lulav is not mandatory in halacha. Technically, if you pick a loose Lulav, loose Hadassim, loose Ravas, and an Esrog, and you put it together, you did the mitzvah. It says in halacha, why do we bind the Lulav and the Esrog with the Lulav with the Hadassim and Ravas? It's what's called Noi Mitzvah. It looks nicer that way. So Noi Mitzvah beautifies the mitzvah that looks much nicer than taking loose things. But the Esrog is not allowed to be bound to the Lulav. There has to be separate. The Lulav, Hadassim, and Ravas could be bound together, and the Esrog, now. What? No, because a lot, again, I want to get into practical halacha. Now, when you come to, so B'chlau, it says in halacha that the first day of Sukkot, last year was Shabbos, we didn't have a biblical mitzvah of Lulav and Esrog last year. But this year it's on Thursday. So Thursday morning it says you're supposed to get up early the first time to do Lulav and Esrog. In fact, it's brought down that Rabbi Yitzchak Baditchev was up literally a whole night, the night of Sukkot, waiting for daybreak to break, that he should be able right away to do the mitzvah of Lulav and Esrog. So ideally, you should, especially the first day that Rebbe brings down, you're supposed to get up early to do the mitzvah of Lulav and Esrog. So how do we do the mitzvah of Lulav and Esrog? There are many different customs. But to preface it, in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Lulav and Esrog, you have to hold them the way they grow. Like if you would hold the Lulav with the top downward, you're not fulfilling the obligation. So if somebody held the lulav upside down, you know what the adasim in order, but facing the ground instead of facing up, and they made a bracha and they did the mitzvah, they didn't do the mitzvah and they made a bracha in vain. Okay, this is very important to understand why there's different customs. So the lulav and esrig, you can only fulfill the obligation when you hold them the way they grow. So now you have like this. You hold the lulav in your right hand. Why is the lulav in the right hand? Because the lulav has 3 out of the 4. Okay, so you hold the lulav in your right hand. If you're a left-handed person, you hold it in your left hand. You're thinking if you're right-handed, you hold it in your right hand. If you're left-handed, you hold it in your left hand. Okay, now, if you notice, many people have a custom that they, when they make the bracha on the lulav, they hold the esrig upside down. That's what you're talking about, this.
It's the way it grows.
What? It's not the way it grows. They hold the esrig upside down. Why do they hold the esrig upside down? Because if somebody, before they made a bracha, puts the lulav and esrig together, they did the mitzvah already. Once you did the mitzvah, you can't make a bracha on doing a mitzvah anymore because you did it already. You blew it. If you make a bracha, it'll be a bracha in vain. So what people do, they want to make the bracha holding the lulav and esrig together, so they hold the esrig upside down. What do they gain by holding the esrig upside down? It's not the way it grows. So therefore...
How does it grow?
No, it grows on the tree, but it grows out. So the pitum is on the top, not in the bottom. So they hold the esrig upside down, and then when they make the bracha and they're putting it together, it doesn't do anything anyway, because you didn't do the mitzvah. Then when they finish the bracha, they turn it right side up. That's most Jews in the world do that. They turn it right side up, and then they put it together, and then they did the mitzvah. Okay? Now, in Chabad, we don't do that. Because when we make the bracha on Tils, by the way, the first day you have to make shachianu. But when we hold the lulav and esrig, we only hold the lulav at the time of the bracha. So when we're making the bracha, shekachem mitzvah on Tils lulav, we're only holding the lulav in the right hand. Or left, whatever, in the right hand. Then when you finish the bracha, the first day you start saying shachianu. So when you start the shachianu, then you take the esrig in your left hand, and you're bringing it closer to the lulav, and then when you say shachianu v'kimanu v'gyanu l'zman hazeh, then you put it together. Okay. The other days when you don't make shachianu, so then after you finish the bracha, you put the esrig together with the lulav and you shake it. That's fulfilling the mitzvah. There's a concept that's called nanuyim that we'll discuss in a second. But so you have to be careful though that when you want to do the mitzvah right, if you put the lulav and esrig together, then you can't make a bracha anymore. So therefore, some people either turn it upside down, or our custom we just don't put it. What?
If you hold the lulav like this, you face it down. That's the mitzvah, or
No.
to hold it facing out. If this is the lulav.
If this is the lulav, okay, and this is the top of the lulav,
Yeah.
and you hold it like this, that's not the mitzvah.
If you hold it like this.
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah, okay, no. If you hold it like, for sure, if you hold it like this. If you hold
What's
it,
the top?
It's not dependent on your grip. It's
Yeah,
like that.
you're not yaitzer. That's why people hold the esrig up. They don't want to hold the lulav upside down. You know why? You crack it on the floor.
I mean, the okitz is which way?
The okitz is the bottom of the esrig. That's what's connected to the tree.
What goes first? When you make the bracha before...
The esrig grows out from the ukitz, and the pitum is on top of the esrig. Therefore, you have to hold it. What?
So the pitum is the right way to do it?
What?
Put it together?
What?
Why do we cover the top of the...
No, we connect the lulav and esrig to the top third.
Yeah, but we usually try to cover the top until the last small we open our grid.
Oh, that's with the nanim. That's not. That's it doesn't. I don't know. I never saw a reason for that. What?
It has to be held top, get upright, or it could be
Upright. Up, down, down.
Right, left, up, down, back.
Okay. Oh, it's late.